Welcome to the Hotel Tech Podcast. This is the show where we tackle your most pressing issues to bring your business more wins. Keeping up with technology is challenging. Our experts are here to help you figure it all out. Here's your hosts, Glenn Haussman and Estella Hale.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the first show, our first episode, our first season of the Hotel Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Haussman of the No Vacancy Podcast, and I'm launching this brand new show, an exciting 10-episode limited series where we're going to be discussing how hoteliers are leveraging technology to enhance business profitability. Now, in every single episode, we're going to be tackling a different topic designed to give you, yes, that's right, you out there, incredible insight on established and newer technologies. So, look, I've been in this business now for more than 20 years, but I'm a hospitality generalist, right? I know just enough about everything to be dangerous. I know a little bit about design. I know a little bit about this technology thing. I know a little bit about franchising. I know a little bit about consumer behavior. A little bit, not a lot, just enough to be able to fake you out and make it seem like I'm a genius. So what I'm going to do for this series is I've gotten myself an incredible co-host. Her name is Estella Hale, and she's the Chief Product Evangelist with SHR. And for those of you out there that don't know already, that's Scepter Hospitality Resources. That's right, SHR, Scepter Hospitality Resources. And she is one of the top technological minds in our incredible industry. So as an evangelist, her entire career has been revolving around informing and persuading and converting hoteliers to leverage the power of their technology. And she's going to be here each and every week making sure that you guys become the smartest folks in the universe. Estella, welcome aboard. How are you?
Thank you so much, Glenn. I'm very excited about this series. I'm very excited to get to contribute to our industry and to really make this a collaboration that can benefit many, many hoteliers out there. So thank you for just allowing us to do this together.
Yeah, well, this is just so exciting to me because I really love having a fun co-host to bounce off of. And, you know, on my main show, I have a different revolving set of guests for that first half, but having a sense of consistency with you is going to be fun. Now, I was lucky enough to meet Estella with this great podcast we did earlier this spring all about distribution, and I highly suggest each and every one of you go to the No Vacancy Podcast feed and check out that great show that we did together. So, Estella, you know, I thought it'd be great to understand, you know, and share with our audience why we're doing this show. So, in your mind, what do you think this is all about?
Absolutely. Thank you, Glenn. Well, here at SHR, we're almost obsessive about thinking about our hoteliers, who they are, what they need, how can they be reached, and also looking at what it is that their pains are in a day-to-day basis, and then seeing how they encounter that guest in the different mediums. So we thought, you know, looking at a show about hotel technology that can expand that connection of the hotel with the guest and bringing experts from the industry, from hoteliers, from key collaborators that we work would have a lot of benefit to many of us that obsess about our customers, and we know that hotels obsess about their guests.
Right.
So we just thought that was a good combination.
Right. And speaking of obsessive hoteliers, very shortly we're going to bringing in one of those great hoteliers to chat with us here on the Hotel Tech Podcast. But before we bring on our great guest, Estella, I want to ask you what your opinion is on the state of hotel technology today. Because me, as an outsider, I'm very excited about where we're going, but it could also be intimidating and confusing for folks that aren't as confident as you are when it comes to everyday dealings with technology.
I agree. It can be both an operational, something that can help with operational efficiency, but it can also be very daunting to be able to tackle everything that comes out there with all of the operational options that, all of the operational obligations that you have. And then to add to that, the guest is evolving much quicker in how they are adapting technology to how we, the providers, enable hotels to adopt that technology. So it is definitely something that can be of great use, but it can also be daunting to just sift through all of the options that are available out there and see what fits best for your property.
Right. And you know what, Estella?
However,
I think this is really why we're doing the show, to answer those questions that you're talking about, right? To really help guide people through these newer technologies that are coming out there, the ones that have been around for the while, and how to put it all together to help create a successful business, right?
That's right. And nobody knows their hotel better than the hoteliers. So I think that is definitely something where our vision for this show is to bring some of these offerings. So for hoteliers to listen to that, to get something of value from the time that they give us listening to the podcast and say, okay, that is something that I can pursue, or saying that is something that really does not fit my profile. So I am okay not worrying about this particular trend.
Right. Excellent. I love it. And, speaking about trends, we're going to talk about one issue today, which I'm finding fascinating and completely the opposite of what I actually expected. And I'm talking about a great study created by ETTSA or ETTSA. Is it ETTSA, Estella? Is that how you call them these days?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
European Technology.
All right. I love it because
because
sometimes these these things get me a little confused. So an ETTSA study, and it's all about direct booking and the fact that it's not really cheaper than indirect booking. Man, you'd think, Estella, with all those ads you see out there with book direct, you got to book direct. Well, that would be the way to go. So, did that surprise you?
It does. I think the study is interesting. I think it is a bit general. For independents, some of the recommendations would be probably different according to where that study is. Again, some of the things that they took a blanket approach, for example, is that they applied brand or franchise fees across the board for direct bookings, which is not the case for independents. Also, there was no differentiation between a net rate or a merchant rate, which is very different in OTAs. So I think it's a great welcome study to speak about hotel distribution costs within the revenue strategy. However, I do think it was a bit too general in reaching its conclusions.
Well, let's bring a hotelier in, I think, at this point to add to this part of the conversation. And I want to bring in Wendy Norris, and she's the Corporate Director of Revenue and E-Commerce with Valencia Group. Now, they're a Houston-based, fully integrated hospitality company that provides management, development, branding, and repositioning services for independent, full-service hotels that are both owned by the company in addition to third parties. Wendy, welcome aboard the show.
Hi, thank you for having me, Glenn. I'm very excited to be a part of this.
Well, Wendy, I got to give you credit for having the guts to be a part of the first ever Hotel Tech podcast, which is pretty impressive. Thanks for taking a chance with us today.
Absolutely. I'm very excited to talk about this, and it allowed me to dig in a little bit deeper with our own distribution costs, which was very enlightening.
Yeah, so this is what I'm excited to share with you, all of our listeners out there, because we have Estella, who's a great expert, and then we have Wendy, who's also an expert in her own right, but is living this day to day and trying to make sure that she pays as less as possible to get all those guests in hotels. So, Wendy, let me start with you since you just joined us. What did you think of this study, and how does it differ than the way you approach your day-to-day life as Corporate Director of Revenue and E-Commerce?
When I read through the study, what was interesting to me is in their study, they flatlined all the rates in every single distribution channel. And what we experience, at least in the mostly in the independent world, is our rates are not always the same for each channel. They're completely different.
When you mean by rates, do you mean what the customer sees or what you pay to get that?
Well, both. But what's happening is on the report, what it's showing is it was, $100 for GDS, $100 was the rate for OTA, $100 was the rate for website bookings, and $100 in direct. Where when we look at the channels that we have, our rates vary based upon the channel, as well as the distribution costs vary by each channel. So when you
I want to get real. Oh, sorry, Wendy. I want to get real simple on that and understand why it varies before you continue with what you're going to say, because I want to make sure that every hotelier understands what you're going through.
So typically what we experience is through the website directly, we see a higher ADR coming through. And a lot of that times could be because it's not a net rate, where the OTA, you have either a net rate or you have hotel collect. You can do either or. So some of them are merchant rates and some of them are net rates. It just depends on how the guests book. As well as direct call-in is usually a higher ADR than the OTAs.
Right. Okay. Well, that makes sense. So, Estella, this also logical to you?
Yes, it does. It is basically where the guest today encounters that desired hotel in many different places. Whether they start the search on the OTA, they may touch 5, 10, or even more places before they make the final booking. And based on the distribution, because we covered a wide blanket of distribution and channels, we do see the ADR is different on the reservations that are being made for the hotel according to the channel. And I'm sure even in-house their spend is different. So I'm with Wendy. I think it is interesting, and I can certainly understand they had to put a baseline in the study. But creating a flat line, it may be a little bit too general in order to reach that conclusion.
Right. So ETTSA is the European Technology and Travel Services Association, and the report Hotel Distribution Costs really examined everything there. So, Wendy, how does what they're saying differ than what you do on a day-to-day basis, and what does that mean to you?
Well, our hotels really focus on the guest experience, so we really want guests to come in and book us direct or through our website. Typically, those costs are a lot less than an OTA or other third-party agencies. So even when we pull out our costs for direct or web, the ADR is still a lot higher than the OTA in general. So we really put a lot of emphasis on pay-per-click and SEO to try and get guests to find us. So they book direct, so we can collect more information about the guest, and we can personalize their experience once they're here.
Okay, Estella, that a sound strategy to you?
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad that Wendy mentioned that. So another interesting part of the study that I found was that they're comparing that it would be very difficult for hotels to invest. That hotels would have to invest way too much in order to get that same guest that is attracted by the OTA. And in that part of the study, I concur, because the guest is searching differently when it's searching, for example, for a destination. In that case, as a hotelier, you most likely do not want to spend your marketing dollars when the search of a guest is destination wide. But once they start narrowing down into what differentiates you or your particular name or something that can be something that identifies you, that is, as Wendy mentions, where you then invest in gaining that guest, where you then invest in that particular moment in the digital search to convert within your site.
Okay, okay. Now things are starting to become much clearer to me. So I think what you're saying is there's still a lot of validity to having your rates out there, but if you're able to then capture them at a certain point through the research cycle that the guest is making, you have an opportunity to connect with them in a more profitable way that lowers your distribution cost. Did I get that right?
Absolutely.
Right.
So yes, not discounting at all. Yes, no, not discounting at all that the guest and the traffic from OTAs are needed. And I'll let Wendy probably speak of it more eloquently that I can. Just saying, for the purpose of this study, comparing what a hotel would need to spend to get a guest that is doing a destination search would not be the best strategy for a hotel to do. They want to do it in a more focused way. Am I saying that right, Wendy?
Yes, absolutely, because the OTAs allow you to have the kind of billboard effect, so to speak. So when they're doing general searches, they typically may not know the area, and they're looking at reviews or trying to look and see, what fits their style. Is it experience driven, or is it pure price? What is it that's driving them to book a room within that specific market? And what that allows us to do, right, is to they can narrow their search down, and it gives a list of whomever they may be interested in. And then once they start seeing us and investigating us and starting to narrow down what they want when they come into the market, we can then hopefully capture that piece from pay-per-click or other means to try and personalize their experience to book with us directly. Or if they have more trust with the OTAs, then they're going to book that. But sometimes we may not have gotten that guest had we not been on the OTA searches.
Okay, so putting it into my terms, as a very basic understanding of what you're all talking about here. If I'm searching for a hotel, I might never heard of that amazing hotel that you have, Wendy, Hotel XYZ in the Houston area. But by going on to my OTA, that billboard effect is going to allow me to see that hotel. But as I continue to explore the destination, you have more opportunities to connect with me directly. But if I choose, I can still go and get that reservation through that OTA, therefore guaranteeing at least you get me as a customer, and odds are over time you're gonna be able to wean people off of that, or at least be able to pay less in commissions by those guests that you convert.
Right, that's exactly right. Because we especially for independent hotels, we don't have the marketing expenditures that we can go out and solicit to multiple demographics across all the time, everywhere. And so what this has really leveled, in my opinion, the independent world with the brands is these mega OTA channels. It's kind of made us kind of equal, in my opinion, and it's really helped the OTAs in some ways. And then, of course, the distribution costs sometimes aren't always desirable. However, the billboard effect, in my opinion, makes up for most of that.
Okay, so you have some great hotels there, but none of them are with the major hotel brand names. So I might not necessarily know Hotel Sorella or Hotel Valencia, for example, but by at least getting your name out there, people are going to start to be able to understand who they are. And I think maybe, Estella, this is where you're going to come in. This is a great way for people to get to know who you are. And I'm wondering now, because you're saying technology is a great leveler, when you have independent hotels with a smart distribution strategy, Estella, folks like the Valencia Group don't necessarily need that major chain and their booking engine to find equitable success.
Yeah, that's what has been so interesting to observe through the last, almost 2 decades of doing this. And it is that the profile of the guest and the trust of the guest for what their experience will be like is not necessarily tied to the predictability that maybe we wanted 20 years ago because there was not as much user content. You wanted to have somewhat of an idea what your room or you could expect of your accommodation, whether you were traveling in business or pleasure. But now there's so much content out there that really guests are embracing the accommodation that will bring them the experience that they're seeking, whether for business or pleasure or group or what have you. So having the billboard effects and the OTAs and the user generated content with reviews, etc., allows those guests to feel more and more comfortable as the years have passed to say, okay, I can have a certain expectation of what my stay will be like without needing that backup of or guarantee of a particular standard within a brand. And that's why it's so... Oh, I'm sorry.
Go on. No, go on, please.
No, I was just going to say that's why it's so important that hoteliers know the value and know at what would convert someone that is looking at them at the different touch points. That's why they have to be in all of these different channels so that they can greet their guests digitally where the guest wants to meet them. But when they come into the digital presence of their online lobby, that they make it very relevant and they make it very welcoming so that they can have that direct interaction. Because also, Wendy, you can tell us what you think, but I think it's also valuable when you get the full guest information or guest profile. So just a healthy combination of it all.
Yes, Wendy, how does this play out in real world experience that you're using every single day?
We ask the guests lots of questions, or a few questions, just to try and gauge their personality and how they're booking and why they're booking and what are they coming in for, a special occasion. So we take care of those guests whenever they come into our hotels to make sure if they're celebrating a honeymoon or they're celebrating their anniversary, we personalize and send up wonderful little goodies to their rooms to try and surprise and delight them while they're here. Our hotels are mostly about experience. So what can we do to enhance that experience so they'll remember it and come back again and again and again? That's our main goal. And when we don't get the right information from the guests via third-party channels because they don't like to share that with us, which we understand, we can't personalize those experiences as much as we really want to.
Right. And of course, you really want to personalize those experiences. And for all the listeners out there, we're really moving into an era of what I've always called mass customization. The idea of creating unique and individualized experiences for individual groups coming to the hotel, but on a large scale. If you have 250 rooms and you sell out, you've got to do that each and every single night in a unique way for each individual. So that's got to make things a little bit more challenging for you, Wendy. But then again, when you're talking about great content you have out there, you could also bring people in, not just through great reviews, but through some of those great social media posts that they put out there that I think really add to that third-party validation that we couldn't just get back in the old days where you had the literal billboard effect by saying, stay in our hotel, free breakfast, right?
Right, exactly. And you know, we've gotten away from the AAA books, you know, the four stars. You don't have to have, your name doesn't necessarily have to be listed into a book anymore in order for people to find you and to feel confident that this is a good value or that this is going to be an incredible experience, because it's more real time now going through these different third parties, because they can see exactly what's happening, whether it's good or bad. You know, what are the good things about that property and what are the bad things about that property, because you know, we all have hiccups every now and again, and it's how we react to those hiccups, which also sets you apart from other hoteliers. Right.
Estella, you want to add to that?
Well, mainly just coming back to the study. I think that they touch on some very valid points. They touched on some points that maybe were a little bit general, but overall, I do find this as a very interesting piece for hoteliers to incorporate distribution costs into their revenue strategy. We know that many times, because of industry reports or integrations or what have you, we have the typical measure, that acronym known to hotels as RevPAR. But what about the concept of bringing what really is your net RevPAR? What revenue per available room do you have when you take into consideration distribution costs? So I just wanted to bring that up for us to discuss, as I believe that's a really valuable fruit that can come out of this study.
Yeah, terrific. Wendy, what do you believe?
You know, and after the study came out, I went through and started digging into all of our channels, all of our costs, all of the ADR that they're coming in at, the room nights that they're coming in at, and figured out the distribution costs, and it was very enlightening to me. I mean, I had always thought that our direct costs, our direct reservations were at a lower cost, but I didn't realize how significantly lower they were versus an OTA. You know, as independents, we have also a brand property in that, so I kind of understand the brand side, and then I also understand the independent side. But as independents, typically we don't have the buying power to get the markup as low as what we would love to have. And so the cost of doing business through some of the OTAs and the third parties gets exorbitant. However, there's still value there, right? So I went in and looked at it, and our net ADR, if I pull out all the distribution cost, is for us is 10 to 15% higher through direct and through web than through the OTAs. But I think we also have to look at it as who is your provider that you are using, and are you getting the best deal for all that distribution? I think that's a piece of it too, is you have to look at your cost of distribution and making sure you have the right partner that fits in within your scope of who you are as a hotel.
Estella, I know you got to follow up on that. She said a lot of great stuff.
I agree. At the end, even for someone that is constantly looking at their revenue management strategy, knowing and striving for having the right rate at the right channel, it is refreshing to hear, hey, after that, I went and looked at it and I was even surprised at what I find. So again, a call to action for our audience to go and take a look at that net ADR, and then if needed, adjust revenue management strategy, or if needed, look at the provider that is bringing you your distribution and look at your distribution costs. Again, you have to have participation in all of these different channels, because as a hotel, you want to meet your guest where your guest is. But then in maximizing the revenue for your property, then you want to manage in those different points that the guest is engaging me. How can I increase the points when they're engaging me at a lower cost of distribution? So I think
sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying it's a great piece to be a precursor for people to go and look at those distribution costs.
Excellent. So I really think what this is all about, when we really, unpack this whole thing, it's the idea of rethinking conventional thinking. We always think that book direct is what you want to do, but that's not necessarily the case, as we're discovering today, which is also part of this ETTSA study. Before we wrap up today, Wendy, is there anything else that we missed that you feel that we should be discussing when it comes to this interesting and surprising topic?
No, I just think that we all have things that we can continue to learn from, and reading the articles and going back to your hotels and using those same methodologies to come up with, what is that doing for my hotel? How is my hotel performing? Will really help enhance your revenue management strategy, or it should enhance your revenue management strategy, and therefore you should be able to get your RevPAR up even higher.
Excellent.
Well, net RevPAR.
Yeah. Right, of course. So Wendy Norris is, of course, once again, the Corporate Director of Revenue and E-Commerce with Valencia Group. Wendy, I'd like to end all of my interviews with giving you an opportunity for a good, shameless plug. Don't be scared. I'm giving you permission. Go for it.
Hi, I'm Wendy Norris. I have 20 years experience in revenue management, mostly in the independent world, and we have a great collection of independent hotels, mostly through the state of Texas. So if you have any questions or need any further clarifications, please feel free to reach out to me.
Great. Beautiful. I love it. Thanks so much for being here today. So Estella, I want to wrap up with you. So what do you think? How do you think this whole one with episode 1, it's in the books. What are you feeling right now? I don't want to influence you, but I'm feeling pretty good.
I'm feeling pretty good too, Glenn. And also, again, this study is available for all of the hoteliers to go and deep dive and see and get their own thoughts of it. But I hope that they find it helpful. I hope that we're bringing them these interesting studies and our insight on it, and that they find that helpful. At the end, about this study, what I would say is that, just a healthy combination on your channel mix, and a true strategy where the hotels center around the guest, meeting where the guest is, and not necessarily a particular channel would bring everyone just very interesting insights. And we hope that it sparks a conversation. And we certainly, just like Wendy, welcome any feedback about what our observations are, or about other studies that people may want us to tackle on these podcasts.
Yes, I love it, and I thank you for bringing that up. But if you do want to learn more about the ETTSA study, go to ETTSA.eu, and you can find more information about it there. And, listen, soon we're going to have a lot more episodes coming up on topics such as loyalty and technology, mobile apps, the future of the CRS, predictive marketing, and much, much more. I'm really excited to talk about stuff like machine learning and all that kind of fun stuff. You can find this show recording on SHR's websites. That's SHR.global. And, of course, on the No Vacancy News Network. Estella, how can people find you if they want to connect with you?
They can connect with me also through our website or email me at info@shr.global.
Beautiful. Info@shr.global. And of course, you can find this on novacancynews.com. But if you want to get each and every episode and you're a little too lazy to go to that website, just text the word hotel to 66866. That's the word hotel to 66866. And you'll automatically get subscribed to the Sunday night newsletter, which will include a link to each and every one of these great hotel technology podcasts. Estella, congratulations. We made it through the first show.
That sounds great. We did it.
Great. And we'll be back next time. Thank you all for listening. And we look forward to exploring all hotel technology has to offer to you. Bye-bye. And thanks for listening.